We're joined in the spotlight today by Willamette University head triathlon coach Brett Franz, a Division III program out of Salem, Oregon. Welcome, Coach.
Hey, good to be here.
You and I have been friends for a while. I've had the pleasure of watching you build that program, and it's been really impressive to watch a ground up build there. You moved over from another sport. You've been a D3 coach for a while. So my interest today is just to hear a little bit about your experience, your approach to building that program, and some of the things that you see it accomplishing as we move forward. So tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to get started building a D3 program out there in the Northwest.
Yeah, I mean, I probably came in the most interesting time. I started in middle of COVID, couldn't even be on campus. Our campus wasn't even open for outsiders. So my first year recruiting was a lot of Zoom calls and a lot of phone calls, and quite a challenge actually. Nobody knew we had a program. Nobody. I went to our admissions to ask, who's interested in triathlon, and they sent me 3 names, and all 3 had no interest in triathlon. They clicked the wrong box. So I had to go try to find other avenues to find people. And, I think I was kind of able to do it from just looking at where are potential spots that we might find people. I had a great network of cross country and track coaches that I built up through my time coaching cross country and track, dove into the swim world, and just, I've been recruiting a long time in college. I'm not afraid of getting a no. And so, and sometimes it took 2 or 3 no's for me to stop, but just kept trying to build it. And I think I was fortunate. I was able to yield 3 of the 4 that I was able to get to apply the first year. Usually that yield rate's not that high, but and then once that happened, I was able to kind of do proof of concept on a couple of brand new athletes and watch them grow. And then once that happened, they were really the driving force of bringing people to the program. And so I'd get them on campus, and then they'd talk to the team, and they were sold. So, still a lot of work to do. It's, we're very, very young, not a ton of experience. And so just that's I kind of looked under every rock I could. There's only so many triathletes out there at the youth level. And so I went and figured out how can I maybe go find some that are really good potential triathletes, but they don't know it yet.
I'm curious, has being a Division III program presented any challenges that you didn't expect? It sounds like, having been involved in recruiting to that level, you sort of had an approach that you had crafted, but starting a sport that didn't exist at the school, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenge. I think initially I thought, well, this will be similar, and it's not. But that's the fun of it. I think it's probably one of the reasons I wanted to start this program. I think there's a uniqueness to it. Being on the ground floor of something really helps bring the group together, and there's a lot of cohesiveness to the group because of that. They see the vision, they see what we're trying to do. And there's challenges of we're a very good academic school, and so my pool is limited to start with just from that standpoint. And so, but you just have to know, no matter where you're at, you have to know what your kind of niche is that you can bring people in. I don't go try to chase someone who might not academically fit coaching, and it doesn't work if everything else isn't going to work here. It can't just be a triathlon piece. And in a school like Willamette that I'm at, it can't be. There has to be multiple prongs and multiple things that the team is interested in.
To speak to that, the Pacific Northwest isn't the first place that comes to mind for a lot of triathletes for ideal training conditions. People think of maybe Boulder, Colorado, or Arizona, or Southern California, Florida. What's it been like to coach a sport with, that's, the training is done in outdoor spaces, natural environment in the fall in the Pacific Northwest? Has that presented any challenges, or what's that been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are challenges, later in the fall, but really in the Pacific Northwest, um, early fall into middle of fall is pretty nice. We usually don't have super highs or super lows in terms of climate or anything. It can start getting a little wet at the end of the season, but I think we were dry all the way up until November this year. And so we had a couple weeks left in the season by the time the weather kind of took a turn. And by that time, anyway, it was dark. And so we had to do a lot of stuff indoors anyway. So, I like it. I like the conditions out here. We have access to tons of outdoor activities and outdoor spaces. We're less than a mile from the riverfront park here in town that we can get over a bridge and hit a wildlife refuge that has trails all over the place. And we can get out on the country roads after a couple miles of biking. And so, for me, it's pretty ideal. I don't like super hot. I don't like super cold. And so I think there's a pretty good sweet spot of training in there.
This last year, going into nationals, I was looking at the mid-season rankings there. For a brand new program, you went into the national championship ranked in the top 10, with some programs that had existed. You'd overtaken several programs that launched before Willamette University. So can you tell me a little bit about what that was like, getting to that position where you'd established yourself as one of the better programs in the country, and, maybe even speak a little bit to, performing to that level or even surpassing that level at your national championship race?
Yeah, I mean, I think, being so young and having, and by young, I mean, we had some people that, day one of practice was day one on the bike. And so we had a lot of learning to do. The returners that we had were still pretty inexperienced. I mean, one of the returners we had only had the 4 triathlons that she'd ever done, and that was her first year here. So, I think we did a good job early on. I think the D3 race at Milliken we went to, we were, I think, 13 points or 19 points from third place, and pretty much every D3 program was there. Had a little unfortunate at regionals, had a mechanical chain break early on in the race from our top finisher from Milliken, and so we weren't deep enough to handle that loss. And then we had a rough last few weeks with some illnesses and things like that going into nationals. And so I think we wanted to do a little better at nationals, but we don't really focus. I mean, I'm not someone that focuses super heavy. We don't talk about it all that much on the team in terms of where we want to be place-wise. This is all process. I mean, it's about, and it's going to take some time. It's going to develop, and it's fun it was fun to be in the mix. Being on, we're 10 points from fourth. We can get there, and starting to see the team kind of, maybe we will be pretty good. Like, maybe we can do this. And like I said, it didn't finish off the way we necessarily hoped it would. But some of that just has to do with depth. There's only so much you can do if I think we were without, 2 of our top people most of the time. And that's hard to overcome, but we were excited. I mean, at the end of the year, no one was down on anything we did. I think that the team was excited about the growth they had and understood the ups and downs we had in the last part of the year. And so they're all excited. I'm excited. And, bring in new people and with the people who are already here and developing, and that just pushes the whole program up.
I'm curious, has there been a specific highlight along the way thus far for you as a coach building out something new?
I think for me, it was probably the first day of practice this fall, and we had 8 people on campus, 8 sets of family dropping their kids off. And from what it was the year before, or there were 3, and seeing the excitement and kind of the leadership skills from our returners of embracing new people. I think in an individual / team sport, it can become a little bit challenging to have about. There's going to be people coming in that are going to push you and make you better, and we want them to all feel like they're important. And along those same lines, I also, my 8th athlete to my first athlete, I want them to have a very similar experience in terms of what they're going to get from me, what they're going to get from the team, and I'm going to spend just as much time figuring that out. And every person on this team they all bring something different and something unique. And we sat down early in the season, and I kind of asked them all, why are you here, and what are you going to bring to this collective group? Because this is something that I joke around with the team a lot of. You're entering a failure sport. Most of mine are coming from single sport things that they might have been, they might have been swimming since they're 6 years old. And to get any growth, it takes a lot of work to get, a tenth of a second swimming. They're coming into this new thing where they can have a huge upward trajectory. They're also going to struggle in things they've never done before, and they can't expect that same level of mastery right away. And so we try to really talk about the culture of how do we be okay to fail and then learn from it. And failure is probably a bad term. They're not failing at it. They're just new to it. But where are we going to learn from that? Where are we going to move up? And the team's been awesome supporting it. So just to see that team growth and just the mindset of the team as a whole has been extremely rewarding. And watching, I had a couple of girls on the team I told, hey, let's just try it for a year. They were unsure about whether to do it. So try it for a year. If you don't like it, okay, then no harm. And into the year meeting with them. So what do you like? I love it. Like, when can we start training for next year? And just opening up new avenues of people that would probably have never done triathlon or never even done college sports, and now they've had that opportunity, and that's going to be something that sticks with them for quite a while.
That's fantastic. And I think what I hear you saying is that you've sort of flipped the paradigm of what really is failing and redefine success in your own program. And it's certainly paying off. I'm curious, as a Division III triathlon coach right now, over the past few years, it's been the Division II and Division III schools that have done a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of building out the infrastructure for NCAA triathlon and helping the entire mission get to 40 programs. But specifically to Division III, what do you anticipate now moving forward we can expect to see at the Division III level for triathlon? What do you anticipate might be some of the next evolutions for Division III triathlon?
Well, I mean, my hope is that we start to develop some more programs and get some new programs in that can help grow us out as we start to look at having to compete with Division I, Division II. There's a huge gap right now of, if I'm bringing someone that hasn't been on a bike since they were 5 years old, and that was a 3-wheeler tricycle, versus someone who's been doing triathlon since they're 6, that's a huge gap, and to be putting them in the same race. And so I think Division III as a whole is a very supportive group of each other. I think we have a lot of conversations as a collective unit about how do we improve D3? How do we, Molly out at Milliken put together an invitational, and every D3 program went because it's a great opportunity to get races, and against other Division III athletes that are similar in ability level and get to race each other. And things like that are important. We have to find our own infrastructure of what happens what's a championship unit look like for a Division III athlete in the future? And those are all big picture items that collectively the D3 group, I think we've had those conversations. We start talking with each other, but extremely supportive. I mean, I've you've put me in touch with coaches to talk for an hour, 2 hours about how to recruit the D3. Like, what are some things you can do? And I think the D3 coaches have a lot of, we don't know everything, and we need help from each other, and that's been a fun environment to be in, because I don't have anywhere near all the answers. This is still new. Even with the recruiting, I still go back and I like to really look back at, all right, who did I get? Who did I not get? Why did I not get them? And then how do I move forward? And then the evolution of it eventually gets to a point where it's like, initially you talk to anybody, and then but roster spots start to fill up, and so now even the evolution of my own recruiting has to change, and so being able to fall on other programs that have been through that introductory phase, and have hit that initial 10, 12, 15 athletes, and then what? And being able to talk to other programs, and I think not only D3 but as a whole, the NCAA triathlon coaching community has been super helpful. I mean, I probably bugged you way too much the first couple of years, and then I reached out to anyone and everyone that would listen and just asked questions and tried to figure it out, because there isn't a blueprint even for someone that might have been coaching triathlon for 30 years, but if they haven't coached the NCAA triathlon, it's different. It's not the same, and so I think there's a lot of big questions we have to answer, and I think we're doing a good job of moving forward and progressing. And I think almost all the D3 programs are getting to the point where they're going to be able to hit the minimum numbers as we move to the next season, and so the growth part's fun and it's exciting, and it's looking back and figuring out where are there gaps in what we're doing as a whole D3 unit, where are there gaps in projecting out what's going to happen in the future, and can we control our own destiny, and make this the experience that we want it to be, and then also being okay with knowing the fact that things are going to change, and that's kind of how life happens, and so there's going to be new things that come up that might not fit us perfectly, but how are we going to adapt to it? Same way that I would hope that we would coach our athletes to work through something that's out of their control, and find good solutions, and keep this thing moving forward.
Well, as a native Oregonian myself, the land of the Portland Trailblazers, you're embodying that trailblazing mentality, and you're a big part of why D3 triathlon has really risen to a new level. So, Coach, thanks a lot for spending some time with us today. Good luck this next season. I know you have a lot of work yet to do. You have a few weeks this spring where you'll do some training with your athletes before you look to the fall next year. But we'll be watching, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Brett.